Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Azira khairun and I'm from English Education 2024. Here I want to read chapter 6, Everyday Life in the Soviet Union, the Shopping Runaround. The author, Hedrick Smith, was head of the New York Times office in Moscow from 1971 to 1974. The following passage is adapted from Mr. Smith's book, The Russians, which was published in 1976 by Quadrangle or the New York Times Book Company. 1. I had heard about consumer shortages before going to Moscow, but only when we began to shop there did the Russian consumers' problems really have meaning for me. Customers, the word overweight in meaning in line, but Soviet lines have a special quality of their own. Typically, the Soviet woman spent 2 hours a day in line, 7 days a week. Personally, I have known of people who stood in line 19 minutes to buy 4 pineapples and 3 half hours to buy 3 large heads of cabbage, only to find the cabbages were gone as they approached the front of the line. Lines can run from a few yard to nearly a mile. Some friends of ours watched a line of people in Moscow signing up to buy rugs. The line lasted 2 days and nights and ran for across all through an apartment development. 2. In spite of all of this, the natural reaction of Russian woman when she sees a line forming is to get in immediately, even before she knows what is being sold. However, Soviet lines are more fluid than they appear. In most stores, for example, shoppers must stand in not one but 3 lines for any purchase. The first, to select a purchase and find out the price. The second, to pay a cashier somewhere else in the store and get receipt. And the third, to go pick up the purchase and turn in the receipt. 3. But in a dairy store one morning, I found out that the game is both simpler and more complex than that. I went in to buy some cheese, butter, and bolognese sausage, which were in 3 separate departments, each with its own line, 9 lines. 4. Rather quickly, took, I noticed that experienced shoppers were skipping the first stage. They know what most items cost, so they went directly to the cashiers for their receipts. After studying price, I did that too. Then I went to the cheese line. The longest probably 20 people to get the worst over with first. I was in line less than a minute when the woman in front of me asked me to hold her please. She jetted off to the butter and milk line. The cheese line was moving so slowly that she got her butter and milk and returned before we had advanced 3 feet. I decided to take the risk too, and I got back with my butter while the cheese line was still inking alone. Then it suddenly occurred to me that all over the store, people were getting into line, holding place, lying, returning. Everyone was using the cheese line as home base. That was why it was barely moving. It kept expanding in the middle. So I got the man behind me to hold my place and I went off to buy my bologna. Once again, it worked. It took me 20 minutes to buy butter, sausage, and cheese. But instead of being furious, I felt as if I had beaten the system. 6. This competitive shopping gives an atmosphere of tension to Russian life. People barge into stores and bump into each other with faces in combative experience. You have to understand, said a kind gray haired person, that for as long as we can remember, shopping has been a struggle, life is a struggle. 7. There is hardly any effective advertising advertising to help shoppers. Americans complain about the constant commercials in the United States, but they might reconsider if they were exposed to the consumer blackout in Russia. A typical Soviet might be, if you want to live to a ripe old age and beautiful, modest stroke and truthful 20, most new paper published without ads. The Sopress has no handle yellow pages or daily newspaper, supermarket, or department store ads to help her decide what to shop. 8. Bribery is why the spread low paid a $8 to $20 monthly. Sales clerks take a portion of attractive items and sell them secretly to regular customers who have either left a bribe in advance or can be counted on to pay a high price on delivery. 10 to 15 rubles on 9 on a 16 ruble raincoat is standard. In 1976, the ruble was equivalent to $132. So common is this practice that the Soviet press is always complaining about it, but it doesn't do any good. Crocodile, the Soviet humor magazine, once showed a department store employee promoting some newly arrived item. Dear customer, in the leader's goods department, 500 imported women's purses have been received. 450 of them have been booked by store employees. 49 are under the counter and have been ordered in advance for friends. One purse is in the display window. We invite you to visit the latter department to buy this purse. Main idea of paragraph 1 is severe consumer shortages in Moscow lead to extremely long and time-consuming lines for basic goods, making shopping a difficult and frustrating experience for Soviet citizens. For example, I once waited in a long line hoping to get the food I wanted, but after a long queue or long line, the food I wanted was sold out. This illustrates the struggle of the Russian people to line long just to buy daily necessities. Main idea of paragraph 2 is Soviet lines are more fluid than they appear. For example, I've seen Indonesian shopping at Russian markets on TikTok. It shows how the lines in Russian are more flexible and orderly. Main idea of paragraph 3 is the uniqueness of shopping in Russian is that the product series has different lines. For example, imagine going to a supermarket in Russian to buy bread, milk, and eggs, but instead of picking them up in one trip on paying at single cashier, you have to stand in a separate line for each item. Main idea of paragraph 4 is experienced shoppers use strategies to save time while waiting in long grocery stores line. For example, I was once waiting in line to buy fruit juice. I mentioned the juice I wanted. Then I told the seller that I was going to go buy something else. After buying my needs, I returned to the place and got my juice already made without having to line again and save more time. This is an example. the strategy mentioned by writer in paragraph 4. Main idea of paragraph 5 is the author discovered how people were strategically using the cheese line as a home base while shopping, and they successfully used the same tactic to save time. For the example, it turns out that the strategy I mentioned in paragraph 4 is widely used because the system in the feed use character is whoever orders first get the juice first. So the strategy can be used to save more time. Main idea of paragraph 6 is this competitive shopping gives an atmosphere of tension to Russians' life. For example, there are clothes that are sold at a price cut off 40%. People will compete to get the clothes even to the point of taking them aggressively. This case is close to the atmosphere of shopping competition in Russia. Main idea of paragraph 7 is there is hardly any effective advertising to help shoppers. For example, one day I was hanging out of the mall. I found a makeup that caught my eye. There were several shades of makeup available. I had trouble finding a shade that suited me because I had never seen advertisement for the product. This showed the artfulness or advertising to help buyers buy the product they want. Main idea of paragraph 8 is bribery is common among low-paid sales clerks who secretly sell desirable items to customers willing to pay extra. For example, there are several cases of cashiers in Indonesian markets increasing the price of goods without the buyer knowing. They do this because they are not satisfied with a small salary. Main idea for paragraph 9 is so common is this practice that the Soviet press is always complaining about it, but it doesn't any good. For example, although many people complaining about the price increase by the cashier, nothing has changed. Perhaps this is due to police negligence or no one has come forward to report it. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.